Just like that, we're live once again. Guys, I'm happy to be back doing podcasts. Yesterday was the first podcast I had done in some time, and I was thankful. I had Gavin Marshall was my guest yesterday, Doug Marshall's son. He's an up-and-coming guy. He's got up-and-coming MMA fights coming. Awesome show. Today, guys, I got a different guest for you. I got Johnathan Vorhies. Am I pronouncing your last name right?
Yes, sir.
Johnathan Vorhies, guys. He's a guy a lot of you guys know here locally. He's already made his way into the mixed martial arts scene. He's got 4 fights, and he's been doing great. And, guys, this Friday, the day after tomorrow, right here in Visalia, California, we have the 559 fights. I believe this one is going to be number 91, if I'm correct. The
Yes,
91st 559 fights. It'll be right here in Visalia, California, at the Visalia Convention Center. It's an awesome place to have a show. I'm really looking forward to it, guys. Anybody out there, the tickets, they may already be sold out, but if you still want to get a ticket, you could hit it up. You could look into it. You might be able to get one. Anyhow, let's get this thing going. We'll talk to our guy right here. Johnathan, how you doing, my brother?
I'm doing great. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. Today, I just got out of school right now, man. I had school over at the College of Sequoias. I'm taking a couple kinesiology classes over there, trying to keep my brain active. And I just got out of a pretty cool class, and I was looking forward to this interview with you. I know it's kind of a pressuring thing for me to ask for interviews, especially a couple days before the fight. Some people will do it, some won't. But you know what? How I feel about it is, I wouldn't do it the day before or the day of the fight. But you guys, you're in this amateur show, and I mean, the big part of it is to get your name out there and get your experience. But I mean, you're not doing amateur to keep doing amateur forever. You're going to get the experience in amateur. You got a lot of different eyes on you, and we're going to go from there. So you're in the 559 fights on Friday. Did you start in 559 fights for your first amateur shows?
Yes. Most of my fights are through 559 fights. I had to take a last-minute fight one time up in Salinas, and that was about it.
So you've had 3 fights in 559 and 1 in Salinas. What promotion was that?
It was War on the Shore, kind of a smaller promotion.
All right, and you got a little experience there. So War on the Shore. Man, this Friday at the convention center, for the local scene, guys, I think the convention center is probably one of the best places for us to have these fights. It's a great, clean indoor location. And, man, it's growing and growing and growing with each show. Jeremy's been doing a great job with the 559 fights, and I really think his show is getting to the next level with each one. Now, Johnathan, you've got 4 fights already amateur, and this Friday will be your 5th fight, correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, your record is good, and this is your 5th fight. What are the plans for you? Provided this fight goes the way you want it to go, how many of these amateur fights do you think you're going to do?
I have to discuss more with my coach, but I believe that this one or one more may be my last amateur fight. Just depends on how things go. Depends on how the performance goes. I have no doubt that I'm going to bring home that belt, so we'll have to talk from there.
That's dope, man. So you're fighting for a belt tomorrow?
Yes, sir.
Friday.
Friday.
Fighting for a belt. What is the weight class exactly?
Featherweight. It's 145.
The featherweight belt, man, that's going to be awesome. I see if you get that belt, pretty soon after that, you're going to be going into the professional leagues. That's great. Now, Johnathan, I've known you for some time, and throughout the time that I've known you, you've trained with different people. I know most of the coaches in this area, especially here in Visalia. At one point or another, I've been lucky enough and fortunate enough to train with Vitruvian Martial Arts and with Mark Dela Cruz and with Ruben over there. And now you're training with another guy that I grew up with on the mats. It's a guy that's a local legend around this area, and he's done quite a bit back in his day. You're training with Coach Darren Crisp now, correct?
Yes, sir.
So Darren Crisp, I know most of you locals, you have to know who Darren is. But if you guys don't, Darren was around back in the day of Gladiator Challenge and when the WEC was here. And Darren helped pretty much I'd have to say almost every local fighter that was from this Visalia area. At one time or another, they trained with Darren Crisp. And Darren, he trained with all this local scene with Doug Marshall and with Tom Knox and all, just pretty much all the different locals that train right here in Visalia. So, man, I'm stoked to see that you're training with Darren. Now, Darren, are you guys training out of the house, or I mean, how does it work if a guy wants to go and get some training with you guys?
Just hit up Darren on Instagram. Some people may have him on Snapchat. Personally, I don't. I hit him up through Instagram. He'll give you some rates, and it just depends how serious you are, man. Like if you're serious about training, you're serious about understanding your techniques and your abilities, and really taking it to the next level. And Darren's the guy. Yeah, it might be out of our house, which to some people might deter them because they like the state of the art facilities. But in my what's the word? History, I guess. My past experiences. Some of the best trainings have been, in the hole in the wall spots.
I totally agree. In fact, here in Visalia, before there was any of these dojos, except for like karate dojos, most of the best places to train were in a garage. My spot at my house in my backyard, it's an old school, and it was called the Box. It was one of the first fight teams and jiu-jitsu teams here in Visalia. The Box was exactly that. It was in a garage. That's where I actually first met Darren way back in the beginning. And we had a small group of guys right there in my garage, like some of the top dudes from this area, just a small group of killers. And it was a cool scene. Everybody got along with each other. Nobody was hurting each other. And you could get some of the best one-on-one training right there on homemade mats in a small little garage. So, hey, if I was to train and I was a young dude getting ready for a fight and I wanted to learn some stuff with an experienced dude, I'd have no problem at all going to Darren's house. Now,
Oh, yeah.
the situation that you're in with Darren, Darren isn't the guy. He's not just going to train any dude off the street. You know what I mean? But if you are a serious guy, you can get that training. So just like John said, there's ways to go about getting in touch with him if you're serious about doing that. Now, this fight in the convention center, it's for a belt. If from what I understood, somebody told me there's a couple different belts on the line Friday.
I believe so. I'm one of the co-main events. There's another co-main event, and then obviously the main event. I'm not sure what weight classes or what belts. I tend to try to just focus on my opponent and my opponent only, as well as myself. But I've seen some highlights on some of the other fighters, and I'm honestly excited to finish my fight and then go watch the main event.
Yeah, it's going to be a good night of fights, man. I'm going to try to be there myself. I'm hoping to be there for sure. Now, if you don't mind, could you give us the name of your opponent? And if you know anything, tell us a little bit about your opponent.
Martin Montes Deocha. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correct. I know he trains out of Dethrone with Mike Moreno. He likes to sit on his shots. He's heavy-handed. He's got decent boxing. I'm not going to share much more because that will kind of go into the game plan and be kind of productive. But, yeah, I'm 100% prepared for anything he has to offer.
Yep. Hey, and that guy, man, just like yourself, he's a cool dude. I've met him.
Yeah.
I've met him too. And you guys are gonna. I feel like you guys are gonna bring out the best out of each other. And you know what I mean? You're a respectful guy, and he is as well. I could see whatever the results, there's going to be respect shown, and it's going to be one of the fights of the night, if not the fight of the night. And man, when these guys they go in there, guys, and they're fighting for a belt, you can call it amateur, you can call it pro, whatever, but they're getting inside of a cage in front of all these people live. And man, it's a lot of people out there, guys. The convention center is no joke. There's a ton of people in there. And it's also with the internet nowadays, guys, and man, social media, believe me, there's all these different cameras and all these different views. Those fights are going to be put out there. You just got to know where to look. And man, I'm super excited, man.
I personally wouldn't even call this fight an amateur fight. I understand that my opponent is very technically sound, and it sounds like he's been training just as hard as I am for this fight. But at the same time, like I said, I'm prepared for everything. Iron sharpens iron, and this is going to be a great fight, guys. I expect a lot from my opponent. I hope he expects the same from me.
Yeah, it's going to be good, man. It's going to be awesome. So you've been doing a lot of training right now. You're getting ready for your fights and all that, but you're still living life, and I'm sure you got bills to pay and everything. What do you do on that when you're not training, John? on the outside? You know what I mean? It's a question that doesn't get asked a lot. But what are you doing on the outside? How old are you? Are you living on your own? What do you do to get by through life?
So I'm 21 years old. I reside out of Visalia. My living situation is a little complicated right now. Um, but any fighter who's actually a fighter, they would understand that the fight life is tough. I go to training. I come back to my girlfriend. We hang out for a little bit. I'm sorry, my fiance. Um, we're expecting our first child, so I'm really excited about that. We're prepping, we're planning, and then I go spend 8 hours at work, make that money. I am definitely looking forward to making some money out of fighting, doing what I love.
That's awesome, dude. And man, am I not mistaken? You work for UPS?
Yes, sir. I deliver all your guys' packages.
So UPS, man, is a legit company. That's a good thing you got going on. UPS is super legit. One of my old students and training partners works there. His name is Joe Soria. Do you know him?
Probably not. We might not be on the same sort.
Maybe not on the same thing. His name's Joe Soria. He's been there about 10 years. He's a driver now, but yeah, you might meet him someday. Cool dude right there. Another one of the guys that was one of the first jiu-jitsu guys back in the day. But anyway, UPS, that's awesome. Congratulations on you having a fiance, man. That's something else at the age of 21. And is it your first baby on the way?
Yes, sir. I'm very excited to be a father.
That's so cool, man. Congratulations, brother. You know if it's a boy or girl?
Honestly, I don't really want to know. Not yet.
All right. Hey, nothing wrong with that. Not one thing wrong with that, man. So
There's the pros and cons to both, The If I have a daughter, I'm sure she'll want to be talking about boys by the time she's halfway through elementary school, and if I have a son, hopefully we get him to channel everything into sports because I have a feeling he's going to have the anger from his dad. So.
Yep. If you know what, man, what your dad has and what your mom has is off. It's passed on down with our DNA and our genetics. That's the bottom line. The thing is the good thing about that, man, is that you understand that you have that, and you know that can be passed down. So I think you're going to put that, the youngster, whether it's a girl or boy, you're going to have them involved in things that they're going to be able to channel that energy out in the right direction. That's a big thing right there. Now, you growing up in your family, because I only know you through fighting. I think the first time I met you personally, I interviewed you after a fight that you had won at the 559 fights. You remember that?
Yeah, I
and
do.
If I recall correctly, you won that fight by ground and pound.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
in my opinion, they should have probably stopped it a little bit sooner, but
they should have stopped it sooner. But man, that's the fight game. That's what happens. And when you're a ref, because I've been a ref, man, yeah, sometimes we stop it at the proper times and sometimes we don't. It's the fight game. Anyhow, that's when I first met you. I'm looking forward to seeing you again with this one. And yeah, dude. So everything, man. When you step into the ring on Friday, you're gonna do your thing. You've got all this stuff on your mind. A baby. Does your wife and your family or your future wife, do they go to your fights?
Oh yeah, they 100% support me. She actually knows that fighting keeps me out of trouble and keeps me in check. It keeps it keeps me not only motivated but dedicated to a better lifestyle than what I used to have growing up.
Now, growing up, do you have how big is your family, like brothers and sisters wise? Are you the only one, or is there more?
I'm the oldest out of everyone, and then after that came my sister Amanda, who God rest her soul, she passed away from cancer not too long ago. Then I have my brother, biological brother, and then I got three stepsisters, a half sister, and two half brothers. So it's a fairly three half brothers. I got a fairly large family. Don't remember half their names, but I love them all to death. So.
And the good thing is, hey, you're the older one out, and they're watching you do something positive, even though it's fighting. Because a lot of people look at that in a weird way, but you know what? You're channeling that energy, and when people the sport of fighting, guys, when two of these guys get into the ring or the cage or on the mat, they're both agreeing to do it, and they have both done quite a bit of discipline and a hard training regimen. They put a lot into it, so I got nothing but respect for that, man. Nothing but respect. Now, these other guys, I know a bunch of young dudes right now that some of these guys, man, they've got like, I won't name any names, but some of these guys have like 10, amateur fights and they still haven't made that decision to go pro, and they put their body through a lot, man. They put their, even with wins and losses, they put their body through all kinds of damage, the brain, the body, the mentality of it. How many fights, if a guy's doing good, what do you think is a good number of amateur fights before you try to either get out of the game or go to that next level?
I know here with the California State Athletic Commission that it's required to have at least 5 fights before going to the professional field. In my opinion, if you're doing well and you're technically sound and you like I said before, you understand your techniques and you're dedicated, you've been training for a little bit. Definitely 5 fights. You know, there's no point in wasting the brain cells. Maybe 6. You know, just depends on the person, but there's no point in wasting the brain cells for free. You might as well get paid for all the damage that we take, because it's not just in the cage. I've taken more damage in training than I have actually fighting.
Yes, what you just said, man, 100% right there. And that's something, again, a lot of people don't talk about, but in the training, man, day in and day out, you're going into the gym. And whether it's sparring with boxing or kickboxing, getting on the mat and grappling, wrestling, your body's taking all these falls. And even with wrestling takedowns and judo takedowns, every time your body takes a fall, our brain it takes some damage. You know what I mean? And then with the sparring, you got a lot of times with headgear, you got the big boxing gloves, you got shin pads on. Every time you take a hit, some people think with those pads and the headgear, like you're really protecting yourself. You're protecting yourself from getting cut, maybe. But talk about that a little bit. When you take those hits, man, you're doing some damage to your brain.
Yeah, for sure. I've been rocked in practice, and in my earlier days when I first started training and didn't understand power wise, I've been rocked and concussed, never knocked out ever, thank God. But yeah, I've had my fair share of brain injuries, hand injuries. I've broken my feet quite a few times kicking. You land on someone's elbow and it just swells up like a balloon. As far as headgear goes, I don't really like wearing headgear. You know, it might, like you said, prevent cuts, but ultimately it makes your head a bigger target, and it makes it easier to hit. So if you're still taking shots, your brain's still rattling up in there. I mean, I hope so if you have a brain. So
Yeah. Hey, well, it's
it's all
known,
about
you know what I
training.
mean?
It's all
The
about
brain,
training
we have a
smart.
thin layer of gel that goes around our brain, stopping the brain from going through and hitting the skull or bouncing around on the skull bone. But all it takes, any little hit, and your brain goes through that little layer of gel and hits that skull. That can happen through all kinds of different things, falls, hits. I mean, you name it, it can happen. So
And
yeah.
especially weight cut, you have less fluid in your head, so it makes you way more susceptible to more severe brain injuries.
Now talk about that a little bit, because that's another thing in the fighting game is the weight cuts. The weight cutting is a huge thing in fighting and boxing and MMA. It's a huge thing now. A guy that's fighting at 170, like a welterweight, I mean, he might be walking around at 185 to 200 pounds, dropping all that weight and getting down to 170. Then he's got 24 hours or more to put that weight back on. He's actually going into the ring, you know what I mean, at 185 to 200 pounds. Yourself, you said it was, what was it again, lightweight or bantamweight?
Featherweight, 145.
I got it wrong twice.
Good
Featherweight.
man. One
So,
day 135. But yeah, man. I for my first fight, my third fight, I actually took fights at lightweight 155. The only reason I don't like fighting at that class is it's kind of one of those weird weight classes. Maybe it just had some bad matchups, late notice fights. But both those fights at lightweight, I took the fight less than 24-hour notice because my featherweight fight pulled out, either due to injury or some other reason. So I was already on the cut down to 145. I remember being at 147 and being told that they wanted to fight at 155 up in Salinas, and I was my 2 fights ago. Even my first fight, he let me know ahead of time. He messaged me on Instagram and told me, Anthony Mata. He told me that he was going to be a little bit overweight and that if I actually wanted to fight him, and me being young and a little bit dumb, I took the fight. So that's where my blemishes on my records are, but definitely my biggest the biggest opponent I fought was Dominic Hill at the War on the Shore up in Salinas. Man, he was like right there. I weighed 153, and he was at 168.9, 169.8, one of the two. And I accepted the fight still because it's still within the weight class from 155 to 170. It's a fairly large weight class, so it gives a lot of room for error if somebody's actually down to fight. Um, Homeboy was 6 feet, 6'1". His hips rode up to where my chest was, and I went out there and I fought hard. I was winning the fight. Took him down quite a few times within the first 2 rounds. Wasn't able to hold him down. He was pretty strong, but I held him against the cage. I was throwing combinations. I ended up dropping him. But like I said in a couple other interviews, is I made my mistakes and I learned from them.
Yeah, and you know what? I say it over and over, but win, lose, or draw, man, you're going to gain some experience from it. I heard nothing but good things about that fight, and what I noticed is that you came back with your last fight. It looked like you were hungrier than ever. So that loss on your record, what did that do for you when you went back to your training for this next fight?
Definitely. I made it kind of a little pact with myself that I wasn't going to take any more overweight fights, last minute fights, especially. I'm down for 2 weeks notice, 3 weeks notice, whatever, but as long as you're going to make the weight, that's the biggest deal. Um, like my opponent for this current fight, I'm not sure how it works with championship fights, but if he doesn't end up making the weight, then depending on how far up he is, I worked hard to cut this weight. You know, if you're not gonna take this serious, at least in the amateur game, in the pros, they take 30% of your purse. You know, so it changed my training around a lot. That's when I started switching coaches because at the time I was with Steve Ramirez when he had a place in Hanford, and then he joined with Mark Dela Cruz in at Vitruvian. And then, I just kind of got to thinking, and the people I was surrounded with, I needed to change. I needed people to come beat me up instead of being the person that beats everybody else up. So I made the switch to Darren Crisp. He actually came and found me, he contacted me, and I fell in love with it ever since. Man, just to let you guys know, just because you're fighting for a belt or you're the current champ, if you're an up and coming fighter, everyone else knows that you're not just the only person beating people up. You're training with pros. You're training with people who are ready to go pro. You're training people who've been training their entire lives. You know, who can put some real work into your regimen, and that's the important part. If you're not getting beat up, where are you supposed to learn from your mistakes?
Yes, what you just said right there is, man, I agree with you 100%. That goes with any, it goes with any fighting art or fighting competition art, but it really goes with any type of competing in life. It could be anything from snowboarding, football, basketball, especially though, like in wrestling, karate, boxing, and MMA. I mean, it's cool. It's great. I mean, you're eventually at some point in a dojo or at a school, you are going to end up being the best guy on the mat, or maybe the guy that's getting the better of most people. And if you're trying to get to the next level yourself or get the best training camp in, there's nothing better than being in a gym where the people can roll you up. It could be a jiu-jitsu tournament, and I've done it before. Man, there's gyms where I've been in where I'm just getting completely rolled up, and then when I go to a tournament, it helps me that much more. But in MMA, kickboxing, and boxing, it's very, very important, man. Very important.
Well, with Darren Crisp, I'm one of the smaller guys. I'm actually the smallest. Everyone else I train with is quite a bit heavier than me, so that also helps with movements. You know, they can apply a lot more pressure than somebody my weight, and ultimately that'll make it easier in the fight to adjust to a lighter person. Um, yeah, so like you say, like it really goes with everything with life, even life. You know, I'm sure most people have heard the saying, surround yourself with five losers, you're going to be the six. You surround yourself with 5 millionaires, you're going to be the six. So it really does. Your environment matters. Your environment matters a lot. I'm not saying I just take shots and I get beat up all the time. I have my fair share of exchanges, but that's what you want. You grow and you realize your growth a lot more too, and it builds your confidence.
Most definitely, man. Well, everybody that we named in this show, guys, every one of the coaches that are here in Visalia, they all got their goods and their bads, and everybody's got an aspect in their training that might be different than the next guy. or it might be a certain thing like the wrestling, the boxing, or the kickboxing. Each guy's got his own thing that he's good at. So, hey, man, I'm really glad that Darren's back in action and he's not just sitting around. I'm really glad to hear that Darren's helping people out in training. It would be a tremendous waste for him just to go through life and not share those things that he did through himself and the things that he sees. So that's awesome, man. Mark, Steve Ramirez, Ruben, everybody that you've trained with, I got love for all those guys, man. I got love for you, got love for your opponent, and I'm looking forward to Friday. Johnathan, is there anybody, sponsors, coaches, training partners, anybody that you'd like to give thanks to or talk about?
At this moment, Darren Cribbs Kickboxing. You can hit him up at DC559 on Instagram. Venom Drip, I'm wearing a shirt. Javon, he's been very loyal sponsor. I've lost a couple sponsors with moving from gyms to gyms, but he is an extremely loyal sponsor. So I love that guy to death, and I appreciate you. As Tyler, Shane, current champ at 559fights. Those are my two probably main training partners and the ones that make the biggest difference. Shout out to my fiance, my future child, and peace, love, and respect, man. A lot of people who know me best, at least, they know that one of the reasons why I fight is because my sister, she battled cancer for 2 years, and she never stopped fighting. And it was actually COVID that took her out. She probably could have had another year, fighting. So she's definitely somebody that I look to for inspiration. Anytime I feel weak or down on myself, I look to her and I'm like, well, imagine what she felt. So you suck it up, because you're doing this voluntarily. So one of the things I promised her the last time that I saw her before she passed away was I was going to bring a belt to her grave, and that's what I'm about to do on Friday night.
That's awesome, man. God bless your sister's heart, bro. And yeah, the cancer, there's no telling how much longer she would have lived. That COVID, you know what I mean? On top of it, the two mixed together, it really sucks, man. I hate to hear that, but bless her heart. I know she's going to be right there looking down upon you, bro. So just know that, man, in the spirit world, she's going to be right there Friday night. She's going to be right there on your side. So, you know what I mean? One day you'll see her again. Anyhow, guys, Venom Drip, Javon, that's awesome that you're doing your thing, man. I'm always open for sponsors, too. My show's growing and growing, guys. So, anyhow, Johnathan, on Friday night, are you selling tickets, or do you know if there's any tickets left? If so, how can a person get tickets for that show beforehand?
You can actually buy them directly off of me. My Instagram is at the Reaper Vorhies, V as in Victor, Orhies. That's my last name. How do you spell it? Some people spell it wrong. I have a few tickets left, not very much, about 10. So go ahead and start banging my line if you need tickets. They're $35. Those are the ones that I have, and you can always upgrade at the door if you want front row, cage side, VIP seating. I believe VIP seating is sold out. I'm not sure about the rest.
And guys, listen to me, man. He don't even have to do that right now. If you guys are going to get tickets off Johnathan, please do not wait. Take advantage of it. Get them now so this young man can be totally focused on fight day. So everybody out there, guys, I want to thank everybody for watching this. Please pass it on. Help my friend Johnathan right here. Help his name grow in this MMA game. And Johnathan, I want to thank you for your time. Thank you for coming on for the little interview at the last minute. I really appreciate it. And
appreciate you for having me on the show, man.
Oh, heck yeah. No problem, dude. No, not a problem at all. Tell everybody that you know. Tell Darren and all those guys I said hi. And I'll see you Friday night, my brother. After your fight's over, I'll come up and I'll give you a handshake and say what's up, my friend.
Yes, sir. I appreciate that. Thank you, sir.
Yep. Everybody out there, you guys have a great evening.
Later.